something happening here.
This land is your land. If it takes them to tear the fascists down, down, down.
There is power in our union. We fascists goodbye.
Welcome to TNZ Talk with radio veteran Tony Trupiano and Huffington Post blogger and writer at Liberals Unite, Richard Zombeck, where they do lean left, but always talk straight.
And welcome, everybody, to another historic edition of TNZ Talk. I don't know what necessarily makes it historic, but here we are, and TNZ are going to talk. And I am Tony Trupiano. So it is Thursday, the 28th day of July, 2016. Tonight, Hillary Rodham Clinton will give her acceptance speech. But before we go there, I am the T. The Z is Richard Zombeck, and he joins me as he always does. You ever going to open the show, or is that just mine? Is that my real estate now?
You want me to open it now?
I just did.
Wow. I will.
Well, I'm going to have to make you buy it now.
All right.
See what Donald Trump has taught me?
Yeah.
Everything is for sale.
He's taught us a lot.
Has he taught us a lot? Like how wrong we could be.
Yeah, and how many people we thought were actually not belonging to insane asylums that were on our Facebook pages and actually close personal friends.
I had posted a story yesterday that John Hinckley was going to be released permanently from the psychiatric hospital. He, of course, is the gentleman that shot Ronald Reagan and three other aides. And at the end of the day, somebody writes on my Facebook page, do you think that is it a coincidence that they let him out as Donald Trump is running as the GOP nominee? I didn't know how to respond to that, so I didn't.
I kind of thought the same thing, but that and how long is he going to last? Because he did shoot Republican Jesus after all.
Yeah, he did. And Republican Jesus' daughter, Patty Davis, is very upset about this, as are a couple other people. I thought it was kind of insane, and I don't mean that, excuse the pun. But what I didn't know when I read the article is that he actually has been on basically a half-month furlough every month, and he's been living with his 90-year-old mother in Virginia. And so he's actually been out half the month for quite a while now. So now the judge is just saying, he's proven that he was mentally ill. We've proven that he's been rehabilitated, blah, 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 blah. He's now 60-something years old. According to the article I read, he likes to drive, has an interest in photography. And imagine this. He's having trouble finding a job and volunteer opportunities, which are part of his probation.
Huh. Imagine that.
Yeah. So, we'll see how that works out at the end of the day. Apparently the people that live in this town are very suspicious of him, have not been terribly warm, with the stuff you would expect. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but, Z, obviously they know who he is. With that comes some unwelcome celebrity. And, he'll have to deal with that.
Yeah, like I said, I did my first thought was, I wonder how long he's going to last.
Well, again, we shall see. All right, so...
Well, and you know what's weird, Tony, is 6 months, a year ago, I wouldn't have even thought that way.
Really?
But, yeah.
Oh.
I wouldn't have even thought, how long is he going to last? I would have thought, people are going to be... But the way things are going now, the fervor on the right and the hate and the seemingly cavalier way that people wield firearms these days really has, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm,
Well,
I don't know.
His actions were responsible for the Brady Bill, which was, I think, the last time we had major gun reform legislation in this country.
Yeah, that Reagan pushed through because he got shot.
Right. Well, I'm just saying. Don't qualify it.
If it's school children, it doesn't really matter.
You're very angry these days. You're dropping the F-bomb on social media nonstop.
Not nonstop.
Okay, at least 3 times a week. Why are you so angry?
I don't know. I think this is getting to me.
What? The show? Society?
Trump. Society, Trump.
Well, dude, we got 103 more days of this, so...
I got into a fight with a guy in a waiting room at the doctor's office the other day.
You did not.
Not a physical fight.
No, I know that, but you got in an argument with somebody at the doctor's office?
Yeah. I was going, I had a valve repair like 7 years ago in my heart. And so open heart surgery. So every once in a while I go for an echocardiogram. And I was in the waiting room waiting for the echocardiogram. And this guy, and they got the TV on. It was like Kelly Ripa or something like that. And this guy.
It's Ripa. But it's
okay, Kelly Ripa.
It's okay.
All right, whatever. That's how often I watch her. So Kelly Ripa is on TV, and I'm with the guy, the British guy who's not British on the show from The Good Wife. I forget his name. The campaign manager.
Never saw the show.
Okay, the campaign manager. Anyway, there's an interview going on, and this guy across the waiting room is like playing a music video on his phone full blast. And I kind of said, "You can't be serious." And he looks at me and he goes, "Are you talking to me?" I said, "Well, yeah. I mean, I can. Oh, you can hear this?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Can you hear the TV?" I'm like, "Well, I can't hear the TV over the sound of your phone." And then he tells me to F off, to leave, get out of here. I'm like, "Dude, I'm in a waiting room. I'm waiting." And, finally I get called. He doesn't turn his phone down. I get called. The couple nurses bring me back to the echo, and they go, "How are you doing today?" I go, "Well, my blood pressure is going to be a little high, but aside from that, everything's okay."
You really are angry.
Well, you don't find that rude?
Yeah, very rude, but I wouldn't have had an altercation over it. Z? Maybe you should talk to your doctor about, I don't know, Xanax.
Well, let me put it this way, okay? Is my blood pressure was 128 over 78, which is normal, but high for me. So my blood pressure is usually 116 over 60.
That's kind of low, actually.
Well,
that lower number's low.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Okay, well, we're not here for
116 over 65 or something like that. Whatever.
All right, so last night was, let's back up. Let's very quickly to Bill Clinton's remarks, and then we'll move on to last night. Night before last, Bill Clinton spoke, and of course he did a great job, because he always does a great job. He's a wonderful and very gifted orator. It's what he should be doing, right? Except...
the explainer in chief.
Yeah, but he didn't explain very well. I mean, he did okay if you're stupid and weren't around in the 90s and aren't aware that he cheated on his wife a zillion times and can't imagine what it was like at dinner in the White House, in the residence, the night that he said, "Oh, by the way, yeah, she did give me a Hummer, and I splooged all over her blue dress."
And we can't. We're looking for the dress right now.
So yeah, he kind of skipped over that whole part and the Jennifer Flowers. And by the way, I don't know if you remember that period, but women were really, they really liked him a lot. And they were defending him.
Yeah.
Which in and
He's
of
a charming guy.
Yeah, he is a charming guy. Have you ever seen the movie Primary Colors?
Maybe.
Well, John Travolta. He's supposed to be about Bill Clinton. Apparently you didn't. Okay. Then never mind.
I can't remember. I did a lot of drinking.
Okay. Well, this wasn't the 90s. It was I guess it was the 90s. Well, anyway, It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I was pretty much drunk through the 90s.
You didn't miss much. Trust me, you didn't.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, you really didn't miss much. Anyway, Bill Clinton spoke and did a wonderful job, I thought, and certainly told a lovely and heartfelt love story, and told us about a woman that, again, if you don't have a memory and don't remember how the Republicans have always been after her and exposed her for everything she did, including passing gas, then it was a little tougher on some people than others. But with all that said, it was a good night for, I believe, the convention. And the convention, I think at this point, we can give it a solid B+.
Yeah, I'll give it that. It also, on the first night, got 26 million viewers, and if Donald Trump is worried about ratings, his convention was in the tank because it was Donald Trump's convention. It wasn't the Republicans' convention. It had nothing to do. It was Donald's convention with fog machines and everything.
Yeah, and you had to love Elizabeth Banks' entrance the other day when she came out to the same modus operandi. So that was in and of itself very, very interesting. So let's fast forward to now last night and talk about a star-studded lineup. Leon Panetta, who, for people that don't know who he is, he was a big part of the Clinton administration, but what he is, in my political mind, best known for is being Barack Obama's chief of staff at the beginning of his second term. And Obama, at that point, was very unhappy with the way the internal workings of the office were. He thought it was disorganized and disjointed. He didn't feel that people were working together. He didn't feel that he was advancing the kind of thought and progress that he wanted. So Panetta came in and revamped the entire West Wing and the Oval Office, everything from recording secretaries to you name it, and really turned the White House around. And again, that's a wonky thing, and that's more my thing than anybody else's, but that's really, beyond being the defense secretary, blah, 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 CIH, that he was able to come in and clean us up, I thought was a pretty good gig.
I'll give him that.
Yeah, because it could have been a disaster. The one thing that didn't happen, usually in the second term of a presidency, there's some kind of scandal. A couple years in, something major happens. Didn't happen this time.
No, I know. And you know what, too, is like watching Obama last night, too. And I'll say it until I can't anymore, is I think his presidency is going to go down as one of the most consequential presidencies in our history.
Couldn't agree more. And loved the video before he spoke.
Oh, man. Talk about, I seem to be getting choked up at things a lot more than usual lately. But that one, I was just like, wow. Well,
that's good. I think that, this is part of your anger and the pendulum swinging far in both directions. Well, let's start with Someone...
You're making me sound like kind of a dick here.
No, not at all. You're taking it that way, which means you're feeling guilty about something.
Oh, boy. Well, it does say on my profile on Liberals Unite that he's much older and angrier than he looks.
It does, and it has from the beginning. So let's start with somebody from our audio catalog that's neither a Republican or a Democrat. But he certainly had a strong message to deliver to the at-real Donald Trump. Of course, I'm talking about former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
Yeah, and the audio that I got here, I mean, he had so many good parts of his speech, but the reason I picked this particular clip is that he went off script on this, and this was not part of his prepared remarks. So here's Michael. He got some strange looks too when he at the very beginning he was talking about that he wasn't a Republican or a Democrat, that he didn't agree with the Republicans because, and then went into why he didn't agree with the Republicans, and then he said, and I don't agree with Democrats because, and the room got really quiet, and they panned around on MSNBC, and the looks he was getting were like, it was really kind of unfair because he was just trying to be honest. But yeah, here's Michael Bloomberg. Going off script towards the end of his speech.
The presidency of the United States is the most powerful office in the world. So I say to my fellow independents, your votes matter now. Your vote will determine the future of your job, your business, and our future together as a country. To me, this election is not a choice between a Democrat and a Republican. It is a choice between who is better to lead our country right now. Better for our economy, better for our security, better for our freedom, and better for our future. There is no doubt in my mind that Hillary Clinton is the right choice this November. So tonight, as an independent, I am asking you to join with me, not out of party loyalty, but out of love of country. And together, let's select a sane, competent person with international experience.
So sane. He had to get that in.
Well, it was really, I mean, at one point, he just, the Washington Post called it blistering.
Yeah. And the commentary afterwards, too, I think someone on MSNBC said, I don't think I've ever heard a candidate's sanity questioned in the history of conventions.
Yeah, not like that. By the way, I have a new girlfriend, a new television girlfriend.
Do tell.
Katie Tur from MSNBC.
Yeah, she's a cutie.
She is a cutie.
Yeah. Where's she been?
She's on right now.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, I have another.
Another
Bloomberg.
I'm sorry, Cassie Hunt, not Katie Tur. Cassie Hunt. But anyway, you have another Bloomberg.
Yeah, I do.
Well, then play it.
You know what? Cheaters never win.
Every time I see Bloomberg, I think of Droopy the dog.
Do you really?
Why don't you know I'm the hero?
We got to get you. We got to find a reason for you to do your Dick Cheney soon.
Well, maybe not.
You know, he didn't show up at the Republican convention.
No, he didn't. And neither did a lot of other people.
No, but I'm just saying it's rather odd because he's pro-Trump. Was
Karl Rove there?
Yeah, he was.
Was he?
But he was working the crowd. He wasn't there for Donald Trump. Anyway, back to last night. There were, actually, let's back up just a little bit. You and I had a conversation, a very brief one, in the middle of the day yesterday when I called you and said, I just saw a headline that said Donald Trump is encouraging the Russians to hack Hillary Clinton's email. Did that really happen? You went, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we want to hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's listen. Let's listen to the Trumpster.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Let's see if that happens. That'll be next. Yes, sir.
Lovely.
Well, and then today he's trying to get out of it by saying that it was sarcasm. That's the word. That's the label that they chose. So, excuse me, Tony, but wow, Tony, that's a nice shirt. That's sarcasm. Hey, what are you wearing that ugly friggin' shirt for? Is not sarcasm. Okay? What Trump said was not sarcasm.
All right, so here's the deal, and he's done this now a number of times. He says something, and then there's a reaction, and then the next day he goes, well, no, that's not what I meant.
I know. Well, you said it into a microphone. You said it in front of TV cameras. You tweeted it 15 times. What exactly did you mean?
All right, so let's go there a moment. He said yesterday that he's never met Vladimir Putin. Yet, a couple months ago, he said that they were in a green room together while they were doing 60 Minutes, which, oddly enough, couldn't have happened because Donald Trump was in New York and Vladimir Putin just happened to be in Moscow.
Trump.
I mean, come
Donald
on, Z.
J. Trump. Well, you know what gets me still? I mean, to this day, I still can't get over it, that his followers don't care. They don't care.
Well.
And actually, aside from the press and the people the Republicans, even the ones that support him on this invitation for Russia to spy on us, have been utterly silent. We have not heard a peep from them. I mean, aside from Ryan, who said, yeah, this is not something that we want happening here. But this is borderline treason. He's basically inviting foreign power to spy on us.
It's called espionage.
Yes.
Many experts on all sides of the aisle were astounded that he said what he said. And, yes, he should be drawn and quartered, but that's not going to happen. The other thing that I find interesting is today he called for an increase in the federal minimum wage to $10. Evoking a very quick and nasty rebuke from Republicans and businesses alike.
It's beautiful. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he actually is trying to lose.
I don't know, because it doesn't
maybe
seem to be
right all
working.
along.
But it doesn't seem to be working. It doesn't seem to be working. Oh, and by the way, a Washington Post reporter, I'm sure you heard about this, was banned from a Trump-Pence rally yesterday.
I did see that, yeah.
It's just insane. All right, well...
Yeah, that he even has the stones to do stuff like that is really kind of... okay, let's move on.
What did you think of the Joe Biden tribute video? Because I thought it was excellent.
I love Biden. You know what I was thinking, Tony? I was thinking this last night, is that if Biden had run, he would be so far ahead of Trump right now. I mean, I love Joe Biden.
How old is he? Do you remember?
I don't. I can look it up if you'd like.
Well, I think he's in his 70s. I'm sure he's in his 70s.
I think so too. But he talked about how close. He's 73 years old. He talked about how close he's become with the Obamas. What a great time he's had in the White House and doing this. And the thing is that this is, to me, this is what public service is about, is people like Joe Biden, and the things that he's been involved with, the way that he genuinely cares about people. And, aside from the gaffes and things that people make fun of him for, I think he really, he has a way of reaching his audience and being honest. Like, you almost feel like there could be, like there were yesterday, tens of thousands of people in the room, and you still feel like he's talking to you one-on-one.
Well, a couple times he did this very effective thing, and I've done this when I speak publicly, too. I'll say, seriously, folks, listen, I really want you to listen to what I'm about to say.
Right, don't boo, don't cheer.
But I take it a little further than that. But I don't need to get into what I do. I think that's a very effective tool. Obviously, I do or I wouldn't use it. But it actually works.
Yeah, and Biden uses it flawlessly.
Yeah, he really does. Well, let's. You've got a couple Biden sound bites, so let's listen to them, because there was some really great stuff that he said last night.
Yeah, so here's Vice President Joe Biden talking about Trump.
To state the obvious, and I'm not trying to be a wise guy here, I really mean it. That's not Donald Trump's story. Just listen to me a second without booing or cheering. I mean this sincerely. We should really think about this. His cynicism is unbounded. His lack of empathy and compassion can be summed up in the phrase I suspect he's most proud of having made famous: "You're fired." I mean, really, I'm not joking. Think about that. Think about that. Think about everything you learned as a child, no matter where you were raised. How can there be pleasure in saying you're fired? He's trying to tell us he cares about the middle class. Give me a break. That's a bunch of malarkey. Tell you. Folks, whatever he thinks, and I mean this in the bottom of my heart, I know I'm called middle-class Joe. In Washington, that's not meant as a compliment. It means you're not sophisticated. But I know why we're strong. I know why we have held together. I know why we are united. It's because there's always been a growing middle class. This guy doesn't have a clue about the middle class. Not a clue. Because, folks, when the middle class does well, the rich do very well, and the poor have hope. They have a way up. He has no clue about what makes America great. Actually, he has no clue, period.
I love that last one.
He's full of malarkey is a great line, because you know what he really meant.
Well, and here's... the thing is, too, is Biden is actually, he's the best spokesman for to reach the middle class at this point for the Democrats, right? And that was really the white working class was the Republican target for a very long time, and here they have a perfect perfect missile to launch into that demographic because he is kind of one of them. And knows how to talk to them, and I think could be very effective going forward in the next, 100 or so days.
Yeah, no, he will be out there, and in fact, he and Secretary Clinton will be campaigning together in the middle of August, I believe. They were originally supposed to be campaigning together starting the weekend of the unfortunate police shootings in Dallas. And so for obvious reasons, they had to walk away from that. Anyway, we have more Biden to get to.
Yeah, let's do that now.
Let me talk about something that I am deadly serious about. This is a complicated and uncertain world we live in. The threats are too great. The times are too uncertain to elect Donald Trump as president of the United States. Now, let me finish. No major party nominee in the history of this nation has ever known less or has been less prepared to deal with our national security. We cannot elect a man who exploits our fears of ISIS and other terrorists, who has no plan whatsoever to make us safer. A man who embraces the tactics of our enemies, torture, religious intolerance. You all know. All the Republicans know. That's not who we are. It betrays our values. It alienates those who we need in the fight against ISIS. Donald Trump, with all his rhetoric, would literally make us less safe. We cannot elect a man who belittles our closest allies while embracing dictators like Vladimir Putin. No, I mean it. A man who seeks to sow division in America for his own gain and disorder around the world. A man who confuses bluster with strength. We simply cannot let that happen as Americans. Period.
Yowza.
Yeah. And you know, most of the night was like that.
Well, it was good actually to see more anti-Trump rhetoric, because I didn't think there was really enough of it the first two nights. So I'll take it now. No question about that. But really, when we think about the night, I was watching MSNBC, and they were talking about, who had given the best speech. And by consensus, everybody said Michelle Obama. And I don't disagree with that. And in fact, when the president mentioned his wife last night, the crowd absolutely went crazy. I don't know that we've ever had a more popular first lady. Do you? Jackie Kennedy, so, I guess. I think Jackie. Yeah, I'd have to go with Jackie Kennedy first, but certainly Michelle Obama would be a very close second.
Lady Bird Johnson.
Yeah, right.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah. Man, am I going to stop you there? With that said, we do have a lot of Obama clips, but there's a great reason for that. Good luck, Hillary, tonight, because getting past or going beyond Barack Obama is next to impossible, as we learned last night.
Also, I looked at my wife last night, and I said, I think actually Hillary's probably going to be the worst speaker of the convention.
Well, I don't know that, but I do know if I were her, I would just get up and say what he said. That would take care of it. I'm going to be curious to see how Chelsea Clinton does.
Yeah. I amend my previous comment.
Why?
Because I think Chelsea will probably be the worst speaker at the convention.
Why do you say that? You've never even heard her speak.
I most certainly have.
Okay.
You know what? On the next episode, which we will most likely do tomorrow, the day after tonight's extravaganza, I may very well have changed my mind. But up until now, I've not been impressed by Chelsea, and I've also not been and I've said this before, I'm very impressed with Hillary Clinton when she's doing one-on-one interviews, when she's in a town hall answering questions. but on a national stage with a microphone in front of tons of people, I see every reason why people don't like her.
All right. Well, we'll have this discussion in detail on tomorrow's show. In the meantime, let's actually, before we get to the president, talk about Tim Kaine's speech, Senator Kaine. He did an okay job. I don't know what to say beyond that. He did an okay job.
He's mushy.
I didn't even think he was mushy. I just thought he was very milk toast.
That's a good word, Tony.
You know, just
I like that. I'm not. I think he's qualified for the job. I don't think he's got. For me, no charisma, no personality, no zing. He's very kind of, milquetoast.
Right. The vanilla fella.
Yeah. He does a good impression of Trump, though.
Yep. So he did speak, and certainly I think it's incumbent upon us to listen to a little bit of what Senator Kaine had to say.
Yeah, and here is Senator Kaine, future potential VP, imitating Donald Trump.
But you might have noticed he's got a way of saying the same two words every time he makes his biggest, hugest promises.
Believe me. It's going to be great. Believe me. We're going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. Believe me. We're going to destroy ISIS so fast. Believe me. There's nothing suspicious in my tax returns. Believe me. By the way, does anybody in this massive auditorium believe that Donald Trump's been paying his fair share of taxes?
That was really the best part of his speech.
Yeah, believe me.
Believe me.
Yeah, although that is a good Donald Trump impression because he says, believe me, a lot.
Yeah.
By the way, the Trump campaign yesterday was emphatic that they will not be releasing his tax returns before the election.
Yeah, which how do his followers how are they okay with that?
They don't care.
There we go. There we go.
They just don't care.
Yeah.
All right. You wanted to do the O'Reilly thing another day, but I really want to do it today.
Sure. Why don't you set it up?
All right. So Bill O'Reilly basically said Michelle Obama talked about she lives in a house that slaves built, and of course Bill O'Reilly of the infamous Fox News had to take exception to it and change history in his own special way, and has taken a little bit of grief. Well, actually, a lot of bit of grief for it. So this is what he had to say. Let's listen to this.
Finally tonight, factor tip of the day. As we mentioned, Talking Points memo, Michelle Obama referenced slaves building the White House and referring to the evolution of America in a positive way. It was a positive comment. The history behind her remark is fascinating. George Washington selected the site in 1791 and has presently laid the cornerstone in 1792. Washington was then running the country out of Philadelphia. Slaves did participate in the construction of the White House. Records show about 400 payments made to slave masters between 795 and 1801. In addition, free blacks, whites, and immigrants also worked on the massive building. There were no illegal immigrants at that time. If you could make it here, you could stay here. In 1800, President John Adams took up residence in what was then called the Executive Mansion. It was only later on they named it the White House. But Adams was in there with Abigail, and they were still hammering nails. The construction was still going on. Slaves that worked there were well-fed and had decent lodgings provided by the government, which stopped hiring slave labor in 1802. However, the feds did not forbid subcontractors from using slave labor. So Michelle Obama is essentially correct in citing slaves as builders of the White House, but there were others working as well. Got it all? There will be a quiz. Just put the quiz, and I'll come to your mailbox. Factor tip of the day.
Yeah, well, the Tony tip of the day is, Bill, the slaves that helped to build the White House were basically shuttled into a barn every day and were fed slop. They weren't paid. Of course, you didn't point that out, but the slave masters were paid, which you did point out. In what universe, Bill O'Reilly, is that acceptable to you?
Yeah, I find my advice to O'Reilly would be you should have just shut up. I mean, why even bring it up?
You know, there's that old saying, you have a right to your own opinion, but you don't have a right to your own facts.
Correct.
Absolutely. By the way, I noticed yesterday when I was reading, or this morning, I was reading an article in the Associated Press, a fact-checking article, and they juxtaposed the Republicans against Donald Trump. Democrats against Donald Trump. And when they were correcting the Democrats, their stuff was 90+% true with some little dangling participles. With Donald Trump, they were just dead wrong. Just saying. With that said, in the time we have left, which isn't a lot, let's get to some of this Obama audio, and I'll let you take it.
Well, let's listen to Obama talking about Hillary's qualifications.
And no matter how daunting the odds, no matter how much people try to knock her down, she never, ever quits. That is the Hillary I know. That's the Hillary I've come to admire. And that's why I can say with confidence, there has never been a man or a woman, not me, not Bill, nobody more qualified than Hillary Clinton to serve as President of the United States of America. You don't mind, Bill, but I was just telling the truth, man.
I thought that was great. And as far as a resume goes, he's absolutely right.
Yeah. Not this week, but next week, let's spend some time walking through what it is about her that makes you uncomfortable. Not today and not tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
We'll do it next week.
Sure.
Sure. Now, the president did go off script a few times, although you wouldn't have known it because of the way he speaks. So I don't know where he went off script. I just read that he did. So I don't know if it were his Trump remarks or whatever. But
I don't know. I've kind of got an order that I want to play these in. I did want to.
No, I'm just making a comment. I'm not forcing you to go in any direction with that.
No, I got you. What you did with the O'Reilly thing, you know, we kind of talked about this before the show, and you forced my hand.
Oh, stop.
And I realized as I was clicking on the audio that I actually control the audio, so it's not up to you at all.
I'm too tired for this. Just play the next clip.
All right, here's some of Obama's comments on the big orange guy that Hillary's running against.
And then there's Donald Trump. Don't boo, vote. the Donald is not really a plans guy. He's not really a facts guy either. He calls himself a business guy, which is true, but I have to say I know plenty of businessmen and women who've achieved remarkable success without leaving a trail of lawsuits and unpaid workers and people feeling like they got cheated. Does anyone really believe that a guy who spent his 70 years on this earth showing no regard for working people is suddenly going to be your champion, your voice? Hey, if so, you should vote for him. But if you're someone who's truly concerned about paying your bills, if you're really concerned about pocketbook issues and seeing the economy grow and creating more opportunity for everybody, then the choice isn't even close.
Yeah, that I would venture to guess that was probably off script. But like you said, he's an excellent speaker. He's very good at getting his points across. And it's, you know what, Tony, it's an indication and an example of something we've talked about, is that Donald Trump is just going to get hammered by the amount of talent that is part of the DNC. I mean,
you mean bigger than Omarosa?
Wasn't she on TV talking about foreign policy?
They dispatched Omarosa, and I don't remember her. I can't pronounce her last name properly. They dispatched her to go out and discredit the former Secretary of State's foreign policy chops, a reality TV star that was on the first season of The Apprentice, and I think Who Botched Your Plastic Surgery.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is what we have. And Tony, he could get elected.
Stop saying that.
Donald Trump could get elected.
I know.
And Omarosa might be our
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State.
You go. All right. Well, let's keep going.
Okay. Well, there are two clips coming up, and one's about 2 minutes, and the other one's a little under 4. And I want to get to these. And in this one, what I like about this part of the speech by Obama is his call out to the crowd. And you know what? I do want to say this, because the Republicans complained that there were no mention of cops at the DNC. There was no mention of, ISIS at the DNC. And every single speaker has mentioned cops in their speech favorably. And they've also mentioned protesters favorably, as they should, because both of those groups should be given respect and be allowed to do what they need to do. It's part of our democracy. And, that they can just lay down blanket statements like that. But in this part of the speech, Obama basically tells us, and again, what you and I have been talking about, tells us and the people at the DNC what we need to do going forward.
Democracy works, America, but we got to want it. Not just during an election year, but all the days in between. So if you agree that there's too much inequality in our economy and too much money in our politics, we all need to be as vocal and as organized and as persistent as Bernie Sanders supporters have been during this election. We all need to get out and vote for Democrats up and down the ticket, and then hold them accountable until they get the job done. That's right, feel the burn. If you want more justice in the justice system, then we've all got to vote not just for a president, but for mayors and sheriffs and state's attorneys and state legislatures. That's where the criminal law is made. And we've got to work with police and protesters until laws and practices are changed. That's how democracy works. If you want to fight climate change, we've got to engage not only young people on college campuses, we've got to reach out to the coal miner who's worried about taking care of his family, the single mom worried about gas prices. If you want to protect our kids and our cops from gun violence, we've got to get the vast majority of Americans, including gun owners who agree on things like background checks, to be just as vocal and just as determined as the gun lobby that blocks change through every funeral that we hold. That is how change happens.
So, a couple things on that particular portion of the speech. One, what I said is that they all mention cops, and also what they all have done is mention Bernie Sanders, right? And going back to a previous conversation that you and I had, where you said, part of the problem is that Bernie Sanders supporters are immature voters, and you specified too, not in age, but in political acumen and their understanding of politics. I think this, I basically cut this audio because of what you had said in a previous episode about that, and that he's saying, look, this is what we need to do, right? We can't. It's not just yes he can, yes she can. It's yes we can, and that you hold them accountable. That Bernie Sanders got a big part of his platform for this nomination, and now it's up to us to hold her accountable and to vote the lower tickets and the down tickets and for the mayors and all of that, and change things and get things changed, and that it's not just about one person.
Beautifully said.
Well,
beautifully said. All right, one more clip, and then we got to clean it up.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay, this was at the very end of Obama's speech, which was part obviously a pro-Hillary speech, but also I think he did wrap up this as part of his kind of a farewell speech, and what he addresses here is what it was like and why he does this, and what the presidency means to him. It's actually kind of moving, so I'll just play that.
As I leave this stage tonight, that the Democratic Party is in good hands. My time in this office, it hasn't fixed everything. As much as we've done, there's still so much I want to do. But for all the tough lessons I've had to learn, for all the places where I've fallen short, I've told Hillary, and I'll tell you what's picked me back up every single time. It's been you, the American people. It's the letter I keep on my wall from a survivor in Ohio who twice almost lost everything to cancer, but urged me to keep fighting for health care reform, even when the battle seemed lost. Do not quit. It's the painting I keep in my private office. A big-eyed green owl with blue wings, made by a 7-year-old girl who was taken from us in Newtown. Given to me by her parents so I wouldn't forget. A reminder of all the parents who have turned their grief into action. It's the small business owner in Colorado who cut most of his own salary so he wouldn't have to lay off any of his workers in the recession. Because he said that wouldn't have been in the spirit of America. It's the conservative in Texas who said he disagreed with me on everything. But he appreciated that, like him, I try to be a good dad. It's the courage of the young soldier from Arizona who nearly died on the battlefield in Afghanistan, but who has learned to speak again and walk again. And earlier this year stepped through the door of the Oval Office on his own power to salute and shake my hand. It is every American who believed we could change this country for the better. So many of you who'd never been involved in politics, who picked up phones and hit the streets and used the internet in amazing new ways that I didn't really understand but made change happen. You are the best organizers on the planet, and I am so proud of all the change that you made possible. Time and again, you've picked me up. And I hope sometimes I picked you up too. And tonight, I ask you to do for Hillary Clinton what you did for me. I ask you to carry her the same way you carried me. Because you're who I was talking about 12 years ago when I talked about hope. It's been you who fueled my dogged faith in our future, even when the odds were great, even when the road is long. Hope in the face of difficulty, hope in the face of uncertainty, the audacity of hope. America, you've vindicated that hope these past 8 years.
Right on.
Little preacher in there.
Just a little.
It was, I don't know, I got goosebumps just listening to it again.
Yeah, he's, and the thing is, too, watching it and watching his face, he was, to use an old Yiddish term, he was a bit verklempt.
By the way, I've heard the word kerfuffle this week a dozen times. Yeah.
Have you?
And
people are listening to
the show,
mostly
in response to the GOP convention. And in fact, I heard it last night, and I don't remember who said it, but they said, well, this has really been a breath of fresh air as it applies to the kerfuffle that was the GOP affair.
Yeah, what do you think of, what's his face there? Is it Steve Schmidt?
Yeah.
Is that his name? Yeah.
I think he's become a Democrat.
I think so, too. He's like, oh, my God, this has been great. I mean, what a wonderful convention. I mean, this is so different than what we saw last week. And I've watched him for almost 6 months try to make excuses for his party. And here he gets to comment on the, I think even the rest of the people on the panel are surprised to see him actually to saying some of the things that he's saying.
Let me close with this. 12 years ago, I was in Boston. And on the third night of the convention, I received a pass to sit with the Michigan delegation, which was right off the stage. And so I went. And I did not stay anywhere near the Fleet Center. It was quite a drive away. And so between my show, which ended at 4 o'clock, and the festivities, which really, the good stuff doesn't begin until about 8 or 9, I went and had the most amazing lobster in a cream sauce that had crushed up buttered Ritz crackers on top that was baked in an oven. It was so rich you couldn't eat it all. And, of course, I couldn't take it with me because I was going back to the Fleet Center. But it was an amazing dinner. And I went back there and just kind of milled around until it was time to go on the convention floor, which I did. And a man got up, and he spoke. And it was beautiful, and it was moving, and the entire arena was silent. as he talked about hope and change and about how important John Kerry was to the country and how his work in the Senate in Illinois, he hoped could make just a fraction of a difference in what the state was going through, and that if he were lucky at all, that he would have sowed some seeds that would grow to help the nation. I got on the air the next day, and I said to my audience, I saw the first black president speak last night. Of course, I'm referring to Barack Obama. He's a special guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss him.
He is.
I think a lot of people are
I
gonna
felt
miss
that
him.
way about Bill Clinton. And we sure did miss him, didn't we?
Yeah.
We sure did miss him.
Yes, we did.
Okay. I think you missed your calling in life. Anyway, let's go ahead and clean it up.
All right. I'm going to give the 411 on TNZ. You can find all the information on me, Richard Zombeck, and him, Tony Tripiano, the T and the Z in TNZ Talk at tnztalk.com. Find out how to friend us, follow us, and read us, listen to our archives, and most importantly, there's a button up at the top right-hand corner that is labeled Support. Go there, support us, give a monthly donation, stipend, whatever you can to help keep us going.
Absolutely. And yeah, that would be important. All right, folks, with that said, tonight is a historic night. I promise you that Richard Zombeck will be 100% honest tomorrow, so you're going to want to tune in just for that. In the meantime, enjoy tonight's convention coverage if you are so imbibing in that. And in the meantime, have a great evening. I'm Tony Trupiano. And for Richard Zombeck, and as always, we ask that you be well.
Oh yeah, can you feel it? Just over the credits, just riffing now. Words and chords. Not the poetry and the real thing, but not bad for an ad-lib. Not good, but... And it's not long enough, so just do a little bit more. And that's nearly done. That's the final credit there. That's the end.